Good morning. We're going to pick up on Africa that we ended with last time, and going to talk about the population issue there, and of course all over the world. Africa is a particular focus of this. The population is due to go up a great deal, and one country in particular seems to be a focus. That's Nigeria, which is thought to probably go up to about 1 billion people by the end of the century. Nigeria, of course, has its own tortured history, which we tend to forget. It was the locus of the Biafran War. The Biafran War took place in the area that is south and east of present Nigeria. It involved the Igbo people, who are largely Christian, and they fought a bitter war, which they lost, and it was very, very traumatic. And they seem to have pretty much swallowed that, but you don't really know what the feelings are behind it. At present, Nigeria is destabilized because of the ethnic tribal differences. We have the Muslim group in the north. We have the Igbo in the southeast, although we don't talk about it. And then we have a balancing area in the west, which pretty much tends to decide the elections. In addition, the country has been destabilized by the discovery of oil. It would have been much better for the Igbo if the oil had been discovered elsewhere, but it was unfortunately discovered in the southeast, and therefore becomes a matter of contention all through the country. But they do seem to be going along functionally, and probably their country will work out. As you know, Africa was driven by the colonizers, and we have boundary lines which pay no attention to original tribal makeup and produce a lot of trouble. But anyway, we have the issue of Africa as a whole, and there's a question: what should the United States do? What in particular should our NGOs do to make things better? We absolutely can't solve the problem, but it's something we can do something about. And the general approach, actually, I hate to be derivative, is the Gates Foundation all over again. Very simple, straightforward issues. You want to cut down infant mortality. You want to cut down mortality in general. And you want to educate. The birth rate seems to be very, very dependent on the rate at which children die, and very dependent on the status of women, the status being considered just general economic status, educational status, and position in life. So anything you can do along that line is greatly helpful. The efforts of the NGOs, and particularly the Gates Foundation, is heavily on just reducing mortality. Their work to stop polio is an example, but many other things, cutting down on infection from just bad water, and just all the simple health measures produce big changes. What we seem to see is something we might consider epigenetic. Now, what is epigenetic? It seems to be the late triumph of a biologist called Lysenko, who thought that characteristics could be acquired, and he was pretty well proven wrong in terms of the traditional genetic markers. These were what we call Mendelian genes, and they behave very well, very much like the what we talked about in Biology 1. You had a a dominant form, you had a recessive form, and you could pretty well predict what was going to happen. And you could do things over many generations to the adult, and that would not change these genes. And that's kept up. Genes do not of these kind, do not get affected by what happens in the environment. And of course, there are all these other genetic material, there's DNA all over the chromosomes, and these were called junk DNA. We thought either we didn't know what they were doing, or they were just detritus of past biological activities. And now we're finding out that things do happen, and that experiences of a species changes things. If a species is living in starvation, this tends to change the reproduction rate. Any kind of stress of that kind changes a lot of things. And you almost might think teleologically that this happens for a particular purpose, but the generations seem to react to what's going on. You have a big war, a lot of men are killed. Afterwards, more boys are born. You have something like the Great Dying in the Americas, where the population of the Native Americans went from probably about 30 million down to maybe 1 or 2 million. And we saw a phenomenon in Mexico where, after the population seemed to stabilize and the economy got better, that the population exploded, going from about 1 or 2 million to about 150 million now, in a really pretty short time. So we know there's this type of population response. We also know there's just simple common sense, general culture, and if you lose a lot of kids, you want to make it up, whether it's biological or just something that's human. And so this is a reaction. So what happens if the mortality of children goes down? The birth rate also goes down tremendously. If women are educated, their status range, they have other things where they can do. They don't have to measure their entire worth on the basis of the number of children. So this sets things up. So you have two things to concentrate on, and they actually are synergistic. If you have an educated, self-respecting mother, she is going to take care of the kids. We find that the mothers are the ones that follow it. If you want to put down a bed net in an area that has malaria, which has some insecticide in it, well, an active, thoughtful mother is going to be the one that'll supervise it. So this goes back and forth. And also, they may put themselves in danger going out to find good water for the family, but this causes a big result. So anything that can be done, as the Gates Foundation has, that follow these twin goals, that is decrease childhood mortality, increase the status of women, and help education, has a huge effect. We'll see you next time.